I grew with the industry. I grew as it developed. And so it's just been really exciting to see where it's at now.
Welcome to The Making of, a podcast by Grazia. I'm Olivia Morris, and in each episode, we sit down with someone who reminds us that success isn't always linear. For this episode, we are thrilled to welcome Chriselle Lim, who has become a household name in fashion. Beyond the fashion world, Chriselle has also entered into a new realm, co-founding a fragrance brand, PHLUR. This is The Making of Chriselle Lim.
I was going through my divorce during that time, and so it was a really big part of my healing process. That's how our very first time missing person was born. It's almost like when you're watching a movie unfold, right? And all of a sudden you don't get to the ending. People are like, what happened?
Well, welcome to The Making of, a podcast by Grazia. Chriselle, we're so thrilled to have you here in Dubai and talking about your fragrance brand PHLUR and its expansion into the Middle East. But obviously going back kind of to the beginning of, growing up, your childhood and the beginning of your career, can you talk me through how it all started of you kind of entering the fashion space and content creation?
Sure. Well, thank you for having me. I'm a huge, huge fan of Grazia and just being able to be here, launching in the Middle East, being here in Dubai. Very exciting times. Just to take you back a little bit of my journey and where it all started, I grew up just loving and admiring fashion, but thinking that I would ever be a fragrance founder. I would have never ever imagined that.
Mm-hmm.
But I did start off in college and I had a blog called The Chriselle Factor. This was about 20 years ago
Mm-hmm.
when kind of the digital scene was just beginning. I think Facebook was just starting,
Wow.
Instagram didn't exist, YouTube was around. But I found a creative outlet of being able to just share just my love for fashion.
Mm-hmm.
I was an aspiring stylist at the time. And so I was just posting up a lot of different outfit photos, a lot of things that I loved. And that was really the beginning of this new digital movement era. I had no idea, but it was just pure passion. And so there was no thought or idea of thinking that this could be a career because that did not exist back then. The word influencer didn't exist either.
I know.
So I grew with the industry, I grew as it developed. And
Mm-hmm.
so it's just been really exciting to see where it's at now.
Yeah, super exciting. Was fashion something you always envisioned, or was it more of a hobby for you? Did you study fashion at university?
So I actually studied accounting. I
Okay.
did not know what I was gonna do. It's quite funny because I'm not the greatest at numbers either, but my mom was like, people that go into accounting make a lot of money, so maybe you should do that. And I was like,
Mm,
okay, that sounds good. So I studied accounting, soon realized that I'm not really great with numbers, but I think it was my second year into college I realized that there was a small agriculture department in my college
mhm.
and it was about textiles. And so I
Okay.
took one class and it became very just fascinating to me. And so I actually dropped out of my original college, which
Mhm,
had nothing to do with fashion. And then I moved into a fashion school.
mhm,
And that was kind of the beginning of my fashion journey. And I knew early on that I wanted to do something in fashion, but I
mhm.
didn't necessarily know what it was.
Yeah.
I thought maybe I would do something within business. I was studying merchandising, going in. There was no such thing as marketing, or
Yeah.
I think now there is a huge industry around fashion marketing, but that
Mhm,
really wasn't a thing back then. So
mhm.
I was a very visual person. I knew that I loved anything visual, where I could kind of piece things together. So I was like,
Mhm,
oh, maybe becoming a buyer would be fun.
mhm.
So I was studying fashion merchandising at the time. And then I just did a lot of internships. And I think that was really the key thing for me was figuring out what I wanted within the industry. So I worked for free for a long time figuring out what I wanted to do.
Mhm.
And then I started interning for a stylist, and that's when I was like, oh, this is really really exciting for me. And so I went into that kind of journey trying to become a stylist, but that was also simultaneously when digital media was starting.
Yeah.
And so I was like, oh, if I could mix these two and I could style um, my outfits online while I'm signing clients, that could be a fun little project. So that's how my blog started.
So would you say your growth in the fashion industry was really kind of side by side, you doing your styling for your clients, but also then growing your personal brand in a way? And that's how you were able to kind of have this trajectory online, I would suppose. Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. Again, there was no real strategy
Yeah.
around it just because they're,
That's how the internet was back then
yeah,
anyway, right?
yeah, it was just pure passion. And if anything, kind of a funny story was I would pull all these clothes for clients and just being able to do my job. I got a few gigs here and there, but a lot of these pieces that I ended up not using on my clients, I ended up selling it for myself on my blog. And again, back then, no one had an understanding of what a fashion blog was. If
Mhm.
anything, it was quote unquote kind of cringe.
Mhm. Yeah.
And so I actually got in trouble by a few people being like, "You're not supposed to be posting this on the internet," which
Oh,
I
no
understand,
way.
but I was I like to think I was an early adopter, and I was showcasing different looks online
Mhm.
because my followers, I had a very small following, they were really interested in these outfits online, and so I guess I was kind of forward thinking of putting outfits online when people weren't
Yeah.
really doing it back then.
Mhm.
So, yeah.
And you eventually transitioned into YouTube as well. Do you
Yeah.
feel like that changed your trajectory for the way you reached a different audience, especially doing video format rather than just photo and written on a blog?
Yeah, so I actually started with
Oh,
YouTube.
you started with
Yes,
YouTube.
a
My
lot of people
mistake.
don't know
Okay.
this because I had two very different audiences.
Okay.
The YouTube audience was a lot younger. They wanted to know more about tutorials, whereas
Mm-hmm.
my blog audience, they were a little bit more sophisticated in fashion and they just want to see the different styling outfits that
Mm-hmm.
I was wearing and I was putting my clients in. So when it came to YouTube, it was really about accessibility. So I would teach people how to look expensive on a budget. You know, I
Mm-hmm.
was in college back then, and a lot of my followers were around the same age as me. And
Mm-hmm.
so I was kind of a, I guess a fashion, it was really fashion tutorial based
Mm-hmm.
back then. And so I built a very strong community on YouTube. And again, this was all during my college years.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's how it really started for me.
Yeah, and then
Yeah.
obviously we've had the growth of Instagram and TikTok, and then you've definitely become a viral sensation on TikTok for many different reasons.
Yeah.
But you've become known, obviously, for your fashion. I've seen you at Fashion Week on the front
Mhm.
row with many brands at Milan and Paris and everything, and New York. But you've also kind of balanced a lot of personal
Yeah.
things with growing your audience that way. Do you feel that's helped you reach a bigger audience in a way because you've balanced both kind of the business side of what you're doing, but also your personal relatability?
Yeah. As I started sharing my fashion tips online and my audience started to grow, it just felt like a natural progression for me to share a little bit more about my life. And
Mm-hmm.
as my audience was growing, they were curious to learn more about me. So it was small baby steps. I would
Mm-hmm.
show them kind of my house and then my boyfriend at the time. And then I
Mm-hmm.
got engaged. And then one thing led to another. And it became more of a lifestyle
Mm-hmm.
content,
Mm-hmm.
and I kind of brought them along this journey of life with me. And I
Mm-hmm.
think it was not intentional back then. Again, I was just showcasing how I was living, and a lot of people were interested. But in hindsight, because I went through a very public divorce and I
Mm-hmm.
went through kind of a very hard time during
Of
that
course.
period. Not that I regret anything, but I me and my peers, we were kind of the first group of quote unquote influencers to
Mm-hmm.
really understand how this would all play out. And
Mm-hmm.
now in hindsight, I'm like, oh, maybe I should like kept some things private to myself. But again, nothing, no regrets at all. I feel like I have this audience and this platform for a reason. And I feel responsible that I should be a good influence. I should be able to showcase not just the great moments, but also
Mm-hmm.
hard times. And if that's going to help someone, whether they're going through a breakup or a career change or whatever that is, my story can help navigate them during those
Yeah,
periods.
of
So,
course.
yeah, I've been very open and
Mm-hmm.
vulnerable about kind of the life journey
Mm-hmm.
and kind of the choices that I've made in life.
Yeah. But as you're saying, there was no blueprint to follow, right?
Yeah.
It's not like if you're going into typical fashion marketing career, you reach an exec level, manager level,
Yeah.
you're kind of following that blueprint. Whereas an influencer, your main goal is to grow your audience and grow
Yeah.
your message. And I guess if you're seeing other people touching on their personal lives, it would be only natural for you to want to do that as
Yeah.
well. But also, if you're getting questions about it and you feel comfortable with your audience, you
Yeah.
never think it's going to become a certain thing, I
Yeah.
suppose, you know?
Yeah, that's right. I mean, there was really no blueprint. And if anything, it was all out of good intention that you just want to showcase more. And I think one of the hardest things that I struggled with when I was going through my breakup, my divorce, was that because I also showed my kids growing
Mm-hmm.
up, I decided that I didn't want to show my kids as much anymore just
Mm-hmm.
because, they're not responsible for, whatever I was going through. So I decided
Yeah.
to show them a lot less, and I still do now. But I call it kind of feeding the beast, right? The more
Mm.
you feed them, the more they want to see.
Of course.
And
Yeah.
so when I did decide to kind of stop that, people were like, "Oh, you don't love your kids anymore. Where are your kids?" And so I learned that it's almost like when you're watching a movie unfold, right? And all of a sudden you don't get to the ending.
Mm-hmm.
People are like, "What happened?" And
Yeah.
so I understand why they felt entitled to understand what was
Mm-hmm.
going on, but I had a big learning moment there where I was like, okay, there are some things, especially in
Mm-hmm.
my personal life, where I should kind of
Yeah.
protect it a little bit more. But again, there was no blueprint at the time. We were kind of the first generation to
Yeah. Of
showcase our
course.
lives.
Yeah.
And so I'm a lot smarter about it now.
I guess it's also like you're saying this is like a movie, but this is your real life at
Yeah.
the same time. It's a kind of a weird, how would you say, polarizing relationship with
Yeah.
social media in a way. Even if you're not a content creator, you might share some things, but at the end of the day, with people scrolling, it's a form of entertainment, really,
Yeah.
isn't it? And those putting their lives online, it is for consumption of people,
Yeah.
whereas actually there is no ending to this. This
Yeah.
is your real life.
Yeah.
So how do you deal with people making assumptions about you online and everything like that? It must be challenging, but I'm sure now that you've been in
Yeah.
the industry for over 2 decades,
Yeah, I think it comes with the job, but also it's your responsibility to create some boundaries
Yeah.
around your life and your mental health. And
Hmm.
so I learned it the hard way. But I think now that I'm older and I've gone through kind of my fair share of struggles, I really protect the things that are
Yeah.
important and I put boundaries around those things.
Hmm.
And so I think it's just a matter of, um, yeah, just drawing the line somewhere.
Hmm.
Yeah.
We will obviously get onto PHLUR eventually, but obviously, as we touched on, you are first and foremost, you are from a fashion background. Can you talk me through some of the most amazing brands you've worked with,
Yeah.
shows you've attended, and then how you found yourself moving more into the beauty space
Yeah.
because you would have built up your profile kind of through fashion, but then that led you onto a path into the beauty and fragrance space.
Yeah, my first and foremost love is fashion. Like I
Hmm.
am a fashion girl at heart. That's what I study. That's what I always knew I was gonna do. So fragrance was not necessarily in the cards for me, but it is an extension of fashion, I
Of
believe.
course, yeah.
But I really believed at a young age that fashion can transform you. I was a very insecure child,
Hmm.
teenager growing up. I was one of the only Asian girls in my city, and I just felt very different.
You grew up in Texas, correct?
I
Yeah.
I was born in Texas, but
Okay.
I grew up in Northern California,
Okay. Hmm.
and it was a very small town. It's not like Los Angeles where it's like a melting pot.
Hmm.
I was one out of maybe three other Asian kids in my
Wow.
school. And so I knew that I was different, I looked different, and I was not confident. I think
Mm.
at that age, you kind of want to fit in.
Yeah.
And that was very important to me back then.
Hmm.
I'm always telling my kids, like, you don't want to fit in, you want to stand out. But back then, I understand you just want to, like, you know, feel like you fit somewhere.
Hmm.
And so fashion brought that for me. I was able to feel a certain way about myself. I felt confident by getting dressed. I even got voted as the best dressed in my school when I was really just not a confident kid growing up. So I instantly fell in love with fashion because it gave me this armor, it gave me this confidence that I never had growing up.
Hmm.
And so, yeah, I started off in fashion. I knew that fashion was my love language, and that's how I kind of started my career. But when I first started with when I got into this world of digital marketing and blogging and creating content online, a lot of people didn't understand. There was a few of us that were doing it. It was like myself, Brian Boy, Ami Song of Style.
Hmm.
There's just a handful of us. And there were not many brands that really got it, especially
Yeah.
in the luxury space.
Yeah. I was
Yeah.
going to ask you that. Did you always intend for your personal brand, to be steered towards luxury, or was
Yeah.
it just about creating attainable fashion for your audience?
I've always loved luxury.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't necessarily, I wasn't able to afford luxury at a young age. So
Mm-hmm.
maybe that was why I love luxury
Yeah.
so much.
I think that's for a lot of us as
Yeah,
well. Yeah.
yeah. Um, so, and I just remember saving up all my money to buy that one purse or that
Mm-hmm.
one pair of shoes. So it did really mean something to me having luxury fashion. I think luxury means different things now,
Yeah, of course.
as the industry has shifted a lot. But that is how I started, is in luxury fashion. But one of my very first partners in this kind of digital media world was Tiffany and Company. And that was a really big deal. That was when Baz Luhrmann created the Great Gatsby
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
movie, and Tiffany did all their jewelry, and they hired me to chat with Baz and to be able to go to the Blue Book Gala,
Mm-hmm.
which was a really big deal back then because, I mean,
Were you attending as a
mhm.
content creator?
Yes,
Okay.
yes. And no one really attended.
Yeah.
I mean, content creators were not getting invited to these
Mm-hmm.
things.
Mm-hmm.
So it was a really exciting moment for me.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And that was kind of my first moment where I'm like, oh, wow, like I'm onto something here.
Mm-hmm.
I've made it.
Yeah. Did you ever have a switch in your head? You were like, oh, well, this is actually a career, or was it always kind of just doing the next thing and just hoping for the best in a way? Because as we discussed
Mhm.
earlier, there's no blueprint for
Yeah.
navigating this digital media space at the
Yeah.
time.
I think when I started working with Tiffany
Yeah.
and they did pay me,
Mm-hmm.
that's when the light bulb went off. And I was like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, I can make a living off of this. I'm
Mm-hmm.
making more money with this one paycheck than I would have if I worked for a whole month at a counter or
Mm-hmm.
somewhere else. So let's
Yeah.
go for it. And it took
Brilliant.
me, again, the industry was just developing,
Of course.
but
Yeah.
it took me, I think, 3 years to really go all in and
Mm-hmm.
full time with this.
Mm-hmm.
So it took a while,
Mm-hmm.
but it was an unknown industry. It was like the wild, wild west, and people were figuring out what worked, what didn't.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, that's how it all started.
And then I guess fast forward quite a few years, you've obviously built an incredible name for yourself in the fashion
Mhm.
space. And as you've seen the kind of content creation space grow, we see so many influencers on the front row
Yeah.
of many shows nowadays. It's a massive marketing point for many luxury brands and other like more attainable brands as well. How did you find yourself moving towards PHLUR,
Yeah.
I suppose? Can you kind of take me back to that moment
Yeah.
where you decided to found the brand and, enter the fragrance space?
Yeah. So Fleur has been around for a little over 10 years,
Mm-hmm.
and I knew of Fleur. I
Mm-hmm.
was a big admirer of Fleur, as they were one of the very first fragrance brands to actually disclose all of the ingredients that
Mm-hmm.
was going into a fragrance. And back then, no one really knew what was in a fragrance. You just kind of sprayed it on and called it a day.
Mm-hmm.
So I knew of Fleur, and they were very forward thinking for that reason. Now, 4 years ago, there was an opportunity to come onto Fleur, take the brand and relaunch it to the world.
Mm-hmm.
And my business partner and I just saw an opportunity there. Did we think that it would amount to where we're at now at this pace that we've gotten here? No.
Mm-hmm.
But we definitely had big, bold dreams and ambitions
Mm-hmm.
to do something with Fleur,
Mm-hmm.
something that it was a big passion project for us.
Of course.
And so we took Fleur on 4 years ago, and we took about a year to work on the brand, to rebrand it, create the amazing juices that we've done with our noses, and work on the packaging, work on the branding.
Mm-hmm.
And then we relaunched it to the world in 2022
Okay.
and early 2022.
Mm-hmm.
And so I've been on the brand for about 4 years now.
Mm-hmm.
And it's been a wild ride. As when I first started, indie fragrances were around, but you just didn't really hear much of them. It was
Yeah.
still the classics and
Yeah.
the traditional houses that were really
Yeah.
dominating the market.
Mm-hmm.
And so I wouldn't have ever imagined that, we would have carved out a space for smaller niche brands like
Mm-hmm.
ourselves within such a short amount of time.
I would say it was kind of divine timing from how I see it, because I just feel like fragrance has really exploded in general over the past 3 years since you would have
Yeah.
come on with PHLUR, 3 or 4 years. Would you say the same?
Yeah, I think we all saw a uptick during COVID when we're all locked down
Yeah.
at home,
Yeah.
with home fragrances. So I
Mm-hmm.
think the idea of scent was really important during the pandemic.
Mm-hmm.
And then as we kind of progressed to move outside of our houses,
Mm-hmm.
I think that still that sensorial experience stayed with us. And
Mm-hmm.
so there was this big interest in being able to smell really good when you see people. Again, kind of we were all a little nervous coming out of the pandemic and we wanted to present our best selves. And I
Mm-hmm.
think scent was such a big important part.
Yeah.
And it was escapism at the time too,
Yeah.
where it's like if you didn't feel good, it made you feel good. And for me personally, I was going through my divorce during that time. And so it was a really big part of my healing process. That's how our very first scent, Missing Person, was born.
Mm-hmm.
When it was our very first scent that I worked on. And I just couldn't really think of an inspiring scent at the time because I was in such a deep, dark place. And I
Mm-hmm.
said, can we create something that smells like how I feel right now? Which was loneliness. I was extremely lonely. I was extremely sad. And some people call it the sad girl scent. But I was craving for love. I was craving to be loved. And so I said, can we bottle something up that smells like a nice warm hug, like your lover's skin?
Mm-hmm.
And so I really created the scent with our noses for me, for myself. I did not know that it would translate and heal so many other people, as it did go viral. And people, if you go on TikTok, if you type in missing person by PHLUR, there's thousands of videos of people spraying missing person
Mm-hmm.
and just crying. It had this
Oh my gosh.
visceral effect on people
Yeah.
experience where it would really take them back to a moment where they felt really loved or
Mm-hmm.
reminds them of somebody that they love, whether
Mm-hmm.
it be their mom who maybe is no longer here with us or their best friend or
Mm-hmm.
their lover. And
Yeah.
so it was a pretty it was a movement when we
Yeah, for
launched
sure.
Missing Person. We had a wait list of 250,000 people.
Oh my
And
gosh.
this is something that we weren't even sure if we could
Yeah.
sell that
Mm-hmm.
many of, to be
Mm-hmm.
honest. So it was a really big surprise, but yeah.
How have you navigated moving more towards being a content creator and influencer, quote unquote, to being more of a founder and a creative director of a brand? But it's been a transition, I suppose, because in a way you're also still the face of the brand
Yeah.
in a way. So you're still marrying the two together. How have you found kind of that balance and moving towards that side of the business, but also still, as you've
Yeah.
just mentioned, putting your personal touch into your brand, into
I
PHLUR?
yeah, I think my experience as a content creator for almost 2 decades has really served me well. I really understand consumer
Mm-hmm.
because I am a consumer and
Yeah.
also I have millions of followers that are consumers
Mm-hmm.
that have been following me for years.
Mm-hmm.
So I understand how to create content. I understand how they will digest my content
Mm-hmm.
and what content works. And
Mm.
this is really valuable information that not many people that have not been on the content creation side would fully
Yeah,
understand.
for sure.
And so I feel very grateful for my experience as a content creator. And I think my life's purpose. Like I really believe in divine destiny and
Mm-hmm.
I believe that I had this incredible career as a content creator to get me set up to be a
Mm-hmm.
founder,
Mm-hmm.
to be able to take all my learnings there
Mm-hmm.
and to be able to put it in into PHLUR.
Mm-hmm.
And so not saying that that was the only reason why PHLUR was successful, but I
Mm-hmm.
think it was a big part
Yeah,
of relaunching and rebranding PHLUR.
of course.
Um, and so, yeah, it's helped me a lot as a founder.
Mm-hmm.
And I think as a founder, you have to play many different hats,
Of
right?
course.
And so I was also still learning from my team on how to run the business and look at it holistically versus just as a creator.
Mm-hmm.
So there was a big learning curve for me there, but I have an incredible team and I just feel so grateful that we've been able to get this far.
So you
Yeah.
relaunched with Missing Person.
Yeah.
Can you talk us through some of the other scents that you have in the collection?
Yeah.
And we've got some of them here right now.
Yes. So Missing Person was the very first scent. It's a beautiful skin mask. It's a very light scent. And they call it the clean girl scent because
Okay.
it really smells like just clean, yummy, delicious skin.
Mm-hmm.
And I always tell people it's not a projecting fragrance. It's not an obvious fragrance. It's a skin
Yeah,
fragrance.
I would agree.
Yeah. And so it smells like you, but better. And
We love this.
yes, because there are moments where you don't necessarily want to walk into a room and the perfume walks in before you. There are
Yes.
moments that
Yeah.
you want that, but there are also days where you're like, I just want to smell like me, the best version of myself.
Yeah.
And that's Missing Person.
It's almost like a no makeup for
Exactly.
scent in a way.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And the beautiful thing about whether it's no makeup or no fragrance type
Yeah.
of scents is that it all works as a great base. So let's say we're comparing this to makeup. Your no makeup is such a great base to work towards to a stronger look, right?
Yeah.
Same thing with Missing Person. People that don't necessarily they prefer stronger scents, they all use Missing Person as the base layer because it amplifies your skin and it actually helps project your other scents. And I always say that Missing Person is like the white tee to your closet. You're wearing a white tee and
I
blue
am.
jeans,
Yeah, I
I
am.
see. But
you are similar actually
yes,
as well.
exactly. But it is the blue jean, the white tee to the closet because no matter, it's not your most trendy or your most flashy thing, but with a blazer, with anything that you throw on,
Yeah.
with whatever combination, it always works.
It's your
right?
fail safe, basically.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay.
And that's Missing Person. It really works so well with any other fragrances, whether it be PHLUR or another brand. And so we always say that everyone needs a Missing Person. And that is kind of where you start to build out your fragrance wardrobe. Now, Father Figure. Have you smelled these?
I've smelt Father Figure
Okay.
just now. I think that's my favorite.
Okay.
Spoiler alert, but yeah.
I'm not allowed to have favorites.
Of course,
children,
I understand.
But I have to say that is probably my most worn scent as well.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
So
Good to
Father
know.
Figure was really inspired by me having to play both mother and father figure roles for my girls, which
Okay.
inspired me to create a scent with our noses that was not too feminine, not too masculine. It was very fluid. It was kind of gender neutral. And it's how we describe it is that it's commanding like a father, but it's tender like a mother.
Okay.
And it's a very beautiful balance. And so there is a fig note, hence the name Figure, Father Figure. And you will smell that fig at top, but then it quickly just becomes really warm with the sandalwoods at the base. And so it's very juxtaposed. It's not necessarily what you would expect from a fig scent. And it is our first green scent where it's just the best, like it's a delicate dance of both, something strong but also very subtle and gentle. And so that is my go-to. That's my scent that I wear when I want to feel confident, when I have a really important meeting.
Okay. Are you wearing it today?
No, today I'm wearing cherry stem, which
okay.
I don't think you guys have here.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's Father Figure. Vanilla Skin is also...
This is super popular.
Yes.
I've seen on TikTok
Yeah.
for sure. Yeah.
So Vanilla Skin actually started off as a body mist. So we
Okay.
launched body mist about 1.5 years ago. We just saw a opportunity within the body mist category to introduce very sophisticated body mist, as there was really no one really doing that at the time. I think body mist has like this reputation of being very young for the kids.
Yeah.
So in my head, I was like, I grew up with body mist. I grew up in the early 2000s and I just like doused myself in body mist. And I don't want to necessarily go back to the early 2000s. But if we're going to launch body mist, we have to do it as if we're developing an EDP as a fine fragrance. So we actually treat our body mist like fine fragrances. And almost everyone has said that our body mist, you can't really tell the difference of
Amazing.
our body mist versus a fine fragrance because there's so much step and they're so sophisticated. We use all of our same noses for our body mist, and the only difference is that it's not as strong. So you could layer it throughout the day. it still has a big payoff for a body mist. I think typical body mist has a 5% fragrance load, whereas ours is 15%.
Okay, that's a
So
big difference.
yeah,
Yeah.
so it does last
Hmm.
for a very long time for a body mist,
Hmm.
but our fine fragrances obviously are a little bit stronger than that.
Yeah, of course.
But yeah, we really treat our body mist like a fine fragrance, and I
Hmm.
think that's why they have really taken off. So Vanilla Skin started off as a body mist, and it exploded on the internet, and our community kept asking us for it to become a fine fragrance.
Hmm.
And so we developed it into a fine fragrance, and we're like, we're not sure if it really makes sense to have the same scent in
Hmm.
two different categories, but let's see, everyone's asking for it. And we are so glad that we did,
Yeah.
because the people that love Vanilla Skin, they'll wear Vanilla Skin body mist during the day, and
Hmm.
then throughout the day they'll amp it up with the EDP.
Hmm.
And so yeah, that's our one of our top sellers
Yeah.
with Fleur.
Do you have a layering moment that you like to do with Fleur fragrances?
Yes,
Because
every day.
layering is huge here in the region for sure. I'm a
Actually,
big layerer with my fragrances,
I
although,
feel like your region
yeah.
has the region here has really are the reason why we all here.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. I would say that I've definitely learned so much about fragrance from living here for 5 years.
What's
Um,
kind of like your go-to layering? Or do you
um,
have any rules or
I I tend to lean to more towards masculine fragrances.
Mhm.
That's probably why I lean more towards father
Father
figure.
figure?
I think I tend to layer quite a. I'd go for deep scents during the day anyway. It's
Mhm.
just something that I tend to do. I would layer like quite a woody scent, and then I
Mhm.
might put like a more deeper. It's might be considered floral, but it's not a sweet floral. It's
Mhm.
very
Mhm.
deep and it's got a lot of notes in it.
Yeah.
So I like to do that. I like to layer different brands as well, which I've told some other noses before and they don't love it, but it's just personal preference because I feel like you're able to really set yourself up for the day of how you feel with how you smell.
Yeah.
That's how I see it anyway. I've just really become immersed in fragrance since I've lived here. So,
Well, I think
um,
now the generation of fragrance lovers, this new generation of fragrance lovers, they really put an emphasis on personalization,
yes, exactly.
and
I
they
would
want it
agree.
to smell like them.
Hmm.
And so gone are the days where it's like about one signature scent.
Hmm.
It's really about how do I want to smell throughout the day? What's the mood? What's the vibe? And so every day might be a different
Yeah.
combination, right?
Hmm.
And so that's what I really love about just developing Fleur, is that it's not to be taken too seriously.
Yeah.
It's a playful brand. And that's what I also love about Body Mist, is that because it's lighter in scent, there is room and ability to play, to try different combinations.
Hmm.
And the biggest joy that I have is when our Fleur fans come up to me or the team. They're like, we tried this with this with this, and we mix it with another brand, and it's just like the best fragrance. You guys should look into this and make it as like
Hmm.
an actual fragrance.
Yeah.
They become the noses, and
That's
because
amazing.
they own their scent, and I think that's what they love about personalization, that no one
Mhm.
else has it.
It sounds like you've really built an incredible community around
Yeah.
Fleur, not an extension of your own community, I'm sure.
Mhm.
So would you say that's the case?
Yeah, I think our community really have built a trust around our brand,
Hmm.
and they feel seen because we truly do listen to them. Of
Hmm.
course, we can't fulfill every
Of
wish
course, yeah.
and request, but if there is an overwhelming amount of requests, we
Hmm.
do our best to really fulfill those
Hmm.
kind of requests from our followers. And I think that is the beauty of building a brand together with your community. And now blind buying fragrance for at least Fleur has been so big
Oh,
because we
okay.
built that trust with our audience to the point where they're like, I don't like a rose, but I know if Fleur has come out with a rose scent, it's not going to be your traditional rose.
Hmm.
So I'm going to give it a try. And I think because of our price point, it allows people to take risk and
Hmm.
allows them to play. And so, yeah, we built a very strong trust and kind of loyalty with our customer.
So we're 3 years in, or just under 4 years in with the brand's official relaunch now. And you've had, as you've mentioned, crazy expansion, crazy virality online, and incredible sales. Now we're expanding into the Middle East. What was the catalyst behind that? Did you notice there was a huge demand from this market
Yeah.
to an interest in PHLUR?
Well, I've always known that the Middle East specifically is the hub of fragrance.
Mm-hmm.
And so, if I'm being completely truthful, I was a little nervous to launch in the Middle East,
Mm.
given that one, it's quite competitive, but two, I wasn't sure if the brand was quite ready yet.
Mm.
But as PHLUR grew and we developed the brand and we built this kind of community of ours, there was a lot of people, a lot of requests coming from the Middle East.
Mm-hmm.
And it's always been my dream, but I just wasn't sure if the brand was ready quite yet.
Mm-hmm.
But I believe that we are now.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, I was nervous up until 2 days ago until I saw the window. I was like, oh
Yeah,
my God, I
you
hope it does well here.
you were in Dubai Mall yesterday and you saw
Yes.
your display. What was that like?
It was incredible. It was a surreal moment. We obviously worked on the plans and design with the team who's been absolutely incredible and great partners to work with. But until you see it in real life,
Mhm.
you don't realize how massive this window is.
Yeah,
And so when I actually saw it, I was like, this is way bigger than I could have ever imagined.
yeah.
And it was really overwhelming. And I was so just moved by just the support that I've had from the community coming in here. Again, I was nervous up until the day that we launched.
Mm.
And but I think for me, I really embrace nervousness or like that feeling of not being sure because that means that I care and
Mhm.
I'm really excited to try something new. And so it was a good feeling.
You're seeing like this huge display in one of the biggest malls in the world.
Yeah.
So it's probably quite surreal, especially if you've just gotten off a flight as well. You're maybe slightly jet lagged and just a
Yeah.
bit
I
all
was like, am I
delirious.
dreaming? Is this real?
um, as you've mentioned, you've put quite a lot of your personal touch into the fragrances. And obviously, as we've mentioned, you've managed to really separate yourself from commentary about your personal life online. Does it when you get feedback about fragrances you've put so much of yourself into, does
Mhm.
that, whether it's positive or negative, does it have any sort of effect on you? Especially, I suppose, if there's criticism.
Yeah. I view it like writing a song, not that I'm a pop star or a songwriter by any means.
Mhm.
Maybe it was like a little dream of mine at once in the past, but I view it like writing a song where it's almost like poetry in a sense where you're pouring your heart into a story and you're sharing that with the world. And
Mhm.
so yes, there is a little bit of yeah, I'm putting my life kind of out there
Mhm.
again, but for me, that's all I knew how to do,
Mhm.
especially when launching a product. And I think fragrance is very specific in a sense because we launched online first. We were not at
Mhm.
any retailers when we first launched.
Independent website
Yep.
then. Mhm.
So our own
Direct to
website. Yeah,
consumer.
direct to consumer. And so I didn't know how I was going to share a fragrance that was unknown, a brand that was relatively unknown, a scent, a brand new scent that no one's ever smelled before. Like how is anyone going to be interested or trust in trying this new scent?
Mhm.
Um, because they can't go out and try it before they can determine if they like it or not. And that's
Mhm.
traditionally how people bought scents, right?
Mhm.
And so I said, I'm going to do what I know how to do, which is storytelling.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
so we, with the first few scents, actually all of our EDPs have a story behind each scent.
Mhm.
But as I mentioned earlier, I felt like I've gone through all of kind of my life journey and have this platform to be able to help other people, especially women,
Mm.
that if my experience or if my emotions can help them get through something and they could spray something on and it'll heal a certain part of them, that's my job has been done
Mm.
as quote unquote an influencer,
Yeah.
as a founder. So I I was actually excited to share my stories through the scent.
That's great. I guess it's a
Yeah.
different form of storytelling for you than you've
Yeah.
done over the past 2 decades, right?
Yeah. And emotional storytelling is a brand ethos.
Yeah.
If you look at the packaging on our boxes, it says something along the lines of we all go through our own journeys in life, but our own experiences, but we all experience the same emotions.
Hmm.
As humans, as women, we all experience the emotions of joy, happiness, sadness, anxiety, and that's what unite us. And I think that is what FLIR is.
Hmm.
It's emotional storytelling within a bottle.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely. From your transition kind of into a founder and being an entrepreneur and everything, and Fleur's grown so immensely quickly over the last 3 years, which is incredible. What have been some of the things you've felt a bit difficult to navigate,
yeah.
kind of going onto the business side of it? Because obviously it's incredible the growth you've had, but there's always kind of unseen hurdles that
Yeah.
you have to jump over, I suppose. What would you say those have been for you?
I think it's really understanding that you can't be too attached to your babies and your
Mm.
product
Hmm.
because sometimes things that you get really attached to, the things that you really love, the world doesn't necessarily understand or is not ready for.
Hmm.
And so that was a really hard thing for me because there are some scents that I absolutely love that it just didn't really take off.
Okay.
And so I had a hard time understanding why, and I had a hard time understanding why do we have to let these go
Hmm.
when it's such a good scent.
Hmm.
But I think that is part of the business where, you think you know, but sometimes you don't,
Hmm.
and that's okay. And you just have to do your best and keep moving forward.
Absolutely. On
Yeah.
the opposite end of the spectrum, what are some of the key milestones? I mean, I'm sure there's so many,
Yeah.
but are there any that really kind of come to mind when that question's asked?
I think the milestone is being able to really redefine what fragrance means
Yeah.
to people,
Hmm.
especially with this new generation.
Yeah.
I think fragrance typically has this notion of exclusivity, um, luxury, which is something that I absolutely love. But we wanted fragrance to be for everyone.
Hmm.
We wanted fragrance to be playful
Hmm.
without losing its sophistication. We wanted to keep that luxury, but it to be approachable.
Yeah.
And I think we were able to really redefine that with FLIR
Hmm.
and also redefine like how people experience scent because I think before just a few years ago people were not open to blind buying scents,
Mm.
but now it's really a thing. You hear whether it be your favorite influencer or maybe even a random person talk about a scent and they're describing it, they're sharing their stories with it, and it really intrigues you. And you're like, okay, I'm going to give it a try.
Hmm.
And so I think there's just this new excitement and openness about fragrance
Mm.
that I think FLIR has helped redefine this category.
Yeah.
Yeah.
100%. Well, we're very excited to have it here in the Middle East for sure. And are you coming back in November for Sephora as well?
Yes.
That's very
Yes.
exciting.
I'm
So
very excited about that.
fantastic. So people will be able to kind of really get to know the story behind the brand with you
Yeah.
there even more. We've obviously touched on your kind of trajectory in the fashion world as a content creator, and then now as a co-founder, as a founder and creative director. The last question I have for you, beyond all of this and kind of the virality and social media, who is Chriselle? You know, I suppose that's the like strip all of that away.
Yeah.
Like who would you say you are at your core?
Oh wow, that's a hard question.
Yeah.
I think
Deep one to end on.
we identify so much with what we do
Yeah.
and our roles, whether it be a founder or a mother or whatever that is. I think the core of Chriselle is I think I think she is an emotional person
Hmm.
that just wants to be loved. And I think it comes down to my early days as a teen of not feeling loved and not
Hmm.
feeling accepted and just looking so different than everyone else. I I think I'm just like any other woman out there that wants to be seen and loved and is a dreamer
Hmm.
that can work hard and achieve her dreams. I wish I had a better answer, but I think I'm a dreamer
Mm.
and yeah, a lover and a go-getter.
I guess, well, one more question I have from that then. 20 years ago when you started off
Yeah.
in this industry, would you have seen yourself here? And what would you say to your younger self, as the dreamer that you were when you
Yeah.
started your YouTube channel and your blog?
This is always an interesting question because I'm 40 years old now, and I quite often think about where I was just 20 years ago, just really like even 10 years ago,
Mm-hmm.
that everything will work out.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's what I would tell her, that life is never, ever how you expect it to turn out.
Mm-hmm.
But if you trust the process and if you trust um, universe or God or whatever it is that you believe in, that you are protected and you will always end up better than where you could ever imagine, just trust and keep going because it's never what you expect, but
Mm-hmm.
it's better.
Amazing.
Yeah.
I love that. Well, thank you so much. It's been so insightful to get to know you and more about the brand, and congratulations on launching in the region.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. This is
Thank
an
you so
honor to
much.
be here.
Thank you. You've been listening to the making of a podcast by Grazia. Visit graziamagazine.com/me for more from the worlds of fashion, beauty, and culture. And make sure you follow us on Instagram and TikTok at Grazia_ME.